Hello, listeners. In today's special episode, your host Eric sits down with the brilliant author Kevin to delve into his latest masterpiece, Chaotic Reality, officially released today, October 31st. Whether you're a fan of digital downloads or prefer the tangible feel of a physical book, Chaotic Reality is now available everywhere. Join us as we uncover the inspirations, themes, and behind-the-scenes secrets of this thoroughly new release. Stay tuned for an engaging conversation that promises to captivate and inspire.
Welcome back to the Frith Guild Podcast. I'm your host, Eric, and today we have a special guest on.
Hello, everybody. I'm back once again. If you guys don't know me, I'm Kevin, also known as Cancer, and I am the author of the up-and-coming debuting Lord of Creation series with Book 1, Chaotic Reality, coming out Halloween 2024.
And that's actually what we're here to talk about today. Unfortunately, Scott isn't able to make it. He's currently in transit or traveling for his work, so he does
I thought he was
send his best.
Beamed up to the mothership. Like, beam me up, Scotty! And for those of you that don't know, that is a Star Trek joke. The only joke I know from Star Trek, unfortunately.
That's like the one joke.
The one
for
joke.
For those that are Trekkies, I apologize. I do not know much about Star Trek or Star Wars. I'm one of those weird ones. I've never watched Star Wars in my life.
Remember, folks, if you ever want to know more about Star Wars, get a Disney Plus subscription. Preferably one that doesn't give you a bunch of ads.
All right, so today we're talking about your first book coming out, Chaotic
Reality.
Chaotic Reality. I apologize here. Been a heck of a day.
It takes you a bit of time for it to come in, so I'm glad I could help prompt you for that.
Now, having read through, I got through a little bit of it, not as much as I wanted to for this today, but I did. I'm going to continue and finish it as well. So far, as I've read, it has been enjoyable.
To clarify, how far did you get in?
About the first 100 pages or so. I've been
the first 100 pages, he says.
Look.
Yes, I know.
As your book title just says, Chaotic Reality.
That's everybody, I guess.
So, with that, how would you best describe this genre that you're writing in? Because you got a lot going on.
Well, that's a very interesting question for this book. It was supposed to be like the original draft for this story and the entire series was set strictly as a fantasy story. High fantasy. There's elves, there's magic, there's gods, there's demons, everything like that. And surprisingly, one of the most inspiring things for this story was a combination of supernatural along with the game RuneScape, if you've ever heard of it. And I get it. There's like a hodgepodge of little bits of most genres. There's obviously a system, like a little RPG game,
right,
and everything. But I would mostly classify it as a dark fantasy lit RPG story because that's the general theme throughout the entirety of the series. Like, the system's still going to be there, and there's going to be a lot of dark fantasy elements into it. Obviously, I always want to change things up every.
And try not to go too much into spoilers. And again, since I'm not horribly far into it, I will say I really love the way that you introduce new items, new races, the way that basically the world building works, the way that he moves throughout it, interacts with it. I love you essentially like you're playing a video game, or I relate it to Skyrim because that's what I'm familiar most with. Updated quests, and again, you said you based this off of Runestone roughly. So again,
silly Eric.
Oh, gosh, don't mind me.
Yeah, just imagine people Googling what the heck is Runestone.
Oh, they'll be thrown through a loop because they'll be just looking through the symbols of rune.
Yeah.
But yeah, you did base it off of RuneScape. and it's definitely an apparent theme. I really like this. This is
Yeah.
actually one of those. I've read the Nexus games and the second one for Chamois. I've read the Corrupted Course, a couple of the books in John Stovall's series. I haven't really delved too much into other lit RPGs. I know that's kind of on my list of things to read. You know, that list is freaking 10 miles long by now, and with that though, like I like I said, I really enjoy the way that you break down the updates and the quest updates. I love the quest updates. That's keeps driving me. It's like, oh my gosh, there's a quest update. Like there's a bonus to it.
So here's another thing that most people don't realize is when I do these system things, at least during like the first half of the book, they don't come together until much later when you begin to realize this isn't just going to be a one book thing. Because, as is obvious, the further in the book you go, the deeper you get involved in the story where, you know, Saratas, and that is how you pronounce the main character's name, by the way. I forgot to put that into the book when I did that. But when Saratas is going through, he's kind of, you know, doing that whole waking up thing, you know, like, he's an elder god. There are gods that have been slumbering, and as soon as they wake up, do you really think they're going to be right there, all ready to go on one gate? No. This book is meant to walk you through how the universe works and the bigger story that is being told very subtly. Because you already have the Chronos Herald. I don't know if you got past chapter 4, so I can't say much more on that one. But
no,
yeah, there are going to be a lot of mystery involved in this, because this isn't my first book. I want there to be longer overarching chapters for each volume in the series, and I can't just stop at one.
right?
I am not J.K. Rowling, where I write a 7-book series, 8 if you really want to count like the movie stuff too, and it's all just one enemy over the course of 7 years at Hogwarts. Nope. This, I will admit there is only one Harry Potter reference in the entire book. As long as some of the stuff makes sense to you as you read, because I know there are some people that would just pick it up, maybe read a few chapters past the prologue, and then they're like, nope, I'm done. But all I can say is, and even Chamois said this too, is it's a very good book. Even if you enjoy it, you enjoy it. And that's my primary goal in making these stories, is giving another story to tell besides just Frith Chronicles.
Right. Now, how many books do you have outlined or planned for this series?
12 exact.
12? Oh my goodness. That is
Yep.
awesome. Now, do you have, I know we talked back in, I believe it was February. What's kind of your anticipation for spacing out of the books for releasing?
I want to try and do one book a year, maybe up to 2 years between releases, mainly because I want to take my time and get these books out, not rushed, but in the way that I feel most comfortable of them being, you know, used. God knows I've had my fair share of, like, I am so exhausted going through the book, adding in new stuff, and then just be like, why did I screw myself over?
Now, I will also say that having the enunciations in here is something that I love. I don't know how often you've listened to the podcast, but like Scott and I going back and forth, like, well, how do you say Arcanus? Is it Arcanus? Arcanus? I think we actually had this discussion way back when.
We did.
Is it Akiva? Is it Jose?
Oh my god. Yeah.
So I'm one of those. I appreciate knowing exactly what the pronunciation
I
of
always
these are.
figured, like, putting in the pronunciations. If I ever, because I had approached 2 publishers before I decided to self-publish, and I was kind of hoping, if I was going to do anything with publishers regarding like audiobooks, because let's be fair here, there are people that just have to listen to audiobooks, which unfortunately I am not sponsored, nor is this podcast episode sponsored by Audible. But
I'm trying, okay?
yeah, but I always figured to the book reader, like the person that makes the audiobooks, give them a thing like right as they're reading it to like pronounce certain words the way that they're doing, because a lot of the books that you read nowadays, they don't have the pronunciations in them like as they're going in the story. They either just keep it straight at the end of the book, so that way if you ever want to remember how certain words are, you go straight to the end of the book and then read it there. And I'm like, nah. Best if it's in the flow, so that way it's still there,
Mm-hmm.
but it's also easier to picture in the reader's head where the word is. And I only need to do it once. I don't
Yeah.
need to do it for every single word.
I tell you what, I primarily listen to books through audio because of my long drive, my long commute to work. And listening to even the Academy series by Shammy and being like, oh, I don't know if I'd have said that with like the way they said that, or all of a sudden Volk has this British accent. I don't think Volk had a Brit. Oh, anyways, digressing, not to go too far into that. But yes, I do appreciate having the pronunciation at the very beginning. Plus, like you said, you only have to list it once. And if you were to put it like at the very end or the very back of the book, and I'm sitting here trying to talk about it, and then finally get to the end of the book and be like, oh, I've been mispronouncing that in my head all this time.
Yeah. See, readers, that's how you help the people who read books and have to actually read it for an audiobook. You put the pronunciations right next to the word.
Now, moving a little bit more into your book, what was your favorite class? And again, I don't know how much spoiler you want to give. I do plan on releasing this on Halloween because best
not
day
much
for promotion.
spoilers, so that way people can go ahead and read the book to find out more.
What was your let me ask this then. What was your kind of like favorite character to design and work towards?
Honestly, one of my favorite characters that I got to make as I was doing this draft of the series, because God knows I've gone through like 4+ years of trying to jumpstart this story. So what I ended up making was Zeradel. So the Primordial of Destruction, or the Primordial of Chaos. 2 different words that means in a similar fashion, so whatever. He's the male lead of the entire story. I love designing the characters because it felt more like one of those old time. It's a bit hard for me to explain, because he's like this classy sort of primordial. It's very obvious, at least to someone who favors the same gender, that Zeradel and Zeradas are really, they know they love each other, but they aren't willing to make the same mistakes as like Zeus or Hera, or God knows most of the Greek pantheon.
All of.
Yeah.
Except for like Artemis and Athena.
Yeah. Oddly enough, I also referenced that in my book, where they know what they did and they are not going to do the same shit. But yeah, it was Zeradel that I had the most fun designing, because he was a character that I never originally intended to make in the original drafting of the series. But as I got more into the aspect of like gay romance or just male loving male, I figure for a lot of the straight men who don't really align themselves with the LGBT community, don't focus so hard on the romance between two male identifying entities. Because yes, I do say that there is a lot in the series that are inclusive of a lot of the community. It's a darn shame that I didn't put in like a person with, I'm not going to say multiple personality disorder, because let's be fair here, that's a bit rude. Just someone that has more than one person up in their head. It's just a lot of fun creating characters that you can relate to. And I also wanted to introduce the male lead at the very start of the books, just to screw him with the readers.
No, I did see that there's other places that this book takes place on other than just Earth Soul 3. What was another place that you kind of had like a particular, you kind of zeroed in on and really and really excited to be able to kind of expand upon?
Alteron, like one of the very first worlds I wanted this series to take place in was a world called Alteron. And yes, that's how you pronounce the world name too. Was mainly because I had set that up as a fantasy world. Like, there are dragons, there are elves, there are goblins, there are orcs. I wanted to set that world up as the world that is most interconnected with Earth, despite the fact that this book does acknowledge there are so many stories that are attached to Earth that are like from Japan, from China, from the US, and I didn't want to pay homage to all of them. I just wanted to be more like, I wanted to take the story somewhat away from Earth, because I do plan on coming back to Earth towards the end of the series. Because, that's like where everything begins, everything ends.
Okay.
Yeah. But to everybody else, I do plan on making a series that tells a different type of story that is set in Earth or an Earth adjacent world. Because I feel like that there's more to explore with the Earth in my series than in most other Earths. Like, God knows I'm making too many references to this, but the Harry Potter one, where, Harry has gone through his 7 years at Hogwarts, he defeated Voldemort, and there's not much else to tell in the wizarding world besides having to go back in time than forward.
Now, as I'm kind of like looking through with your like codex entries, where did you get that from? Is that something that kind of came to you, or
What, the codex entries?
kind of like that the concept of using like the codex entries, the quest updates, the system warnings, that kind of thing? Because again, I love the concept.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if that's like a normal or familiar or something like that, but
Oh, it sounds fun to me. But what inspired me to make the codex entries was actually just like you were saying earlier about how you were thankful that there were pronunciations right next to the word, was because uh, the codex entries are supposed to kind of help bring more light into the way the universe works inside of the books. And funnily enough, if you look at the codex entry for Bridget, that codex entry, which is obviously in chapter 1, so like right next to the prologue, most of that I actually had to look on Wikipedia just to get. And I had originally made Sarah's girlfriend a follower of that goddess specifically because I felt like there was something to how this specific character is portrayed in order to bring more into this. But yeah, Bridget, I felt like was a decent enough little spot in chapter 1. And the codex entry for it, like I thought it was pretty interesting. So I read it how I would have wrote it instead of just straight from Wikipedia.
Well, I like that you use that as a way to give information without breaking the fourth wall, without kind of interrupting the flow of the book. So that's one of those, like I said, that's one of those things I really enjoyed reading and actually having. So that way, you can keep up with it. You don't have to like sit there and scratch your head, like, okay, like, well, what's spellcrafting? And obviously, you have a codex entry for it. And I like
There
the way
was
that you
a
use
whole
that.
bunch of headaches on my part, so don't worry, readers. I saved you most of it.
I'm just looking at the codex entry for Bridget since you brought it up.
Yeah, basically, and unfortunately, I've been trying to get the physical copy so I can send you one, so I can send Shammy one, so I can send a lot of the people one, but this I only have the author copy that you're not supposed to resale for, so.
Oh, it's got the ugly line across the front
Yeah,
of the book that
it's
says
got
"not
the
for
ugly
resale."
line, got the
Oh,
ugly line, very ugly line, and
sad.
the very ugly line.
You're
But
just like, I want the real one.
yep. So I'm gonna read this verbatim for everyone. Codex entry Bridget. Bridget, also known as Brig, is portrayed as a pre-Christian deity of Ireland. While most have forgotten her origins as a member of the Tuatha De Danann, and I'm sorry if I mispronounce a lot of this, so sorry to the Irish people for this. And being the wife of Bress, who together had a child named Rudan. Again, I'm sorry for the mispronunciation. If I did fuck up, I'm pretty sure I fucked up. She is still remembered in the internal system as a goddess who basic divinities. I should have said whose basic divinities on that one, so that's a bit of a fuck up on that one. Revolve around wisdom, poetry, healing, protection, forge work, aka smithing, so of that, and animal husbandry. Outside of her status as a regional deity of pre-Christian Irish mythology, those who remember her classify her as a triple deity in a similar notion as the Fates in Greek mythology. In the eternal system, she is regarded as a young god, and young god is bolded. And yes, that is intentional. It is intentional for some of these words to be bolded.
Now, if you had to pick, if you had to pick one of these that you basically could go into your character customization, which one would you pick?
Oh, what, for divinities?
Yes.
Oh, that's playing with fire, mate, because there's so many. But I honestly have no clue. I have no clue what kind of divinity I would choose if I had the ability to choose for whatever divinity I wanted, because there's just so many. Even if you guys haven't even read the entire book yet.
How about we take a step back and say, how about race? Which race would you pick?
Ooh, now that's fun. That was the most fun part I had while writing this entire series with the internal system in mind, because I was like, I'm gonna have so much fun with races. um, if I had to choose, and unfortunately you're not quite fully there, because I know I'm briefly mentioned it in prologue, but it would be the Zilsha, and that's Saratas's elder race,
Okay.
which are considered his children, so to speak.
Ooh.
Yep. And it's been made absolutely clear, or maybe very vaguely, I don't fully remember, but the elder races are supposed to be the children races of the elder gods and primordials. Yeah.
Oh, there's so many good options.
Yep.
When even looking through the mystical races.
Oh, he got to chapter 2, people. He got to chapter 2.
Yeah, like I mean, this isn't. Hey, like looking through the options, like oh my gosh, there's just so many fun ones in there. Like
Yep.
Leviathan, Minotaur, Phoenix, Dragon.
Oh
like,
my god, yeah.
just those four alone. Like not.
I would like to clarify that while it says dragon as a mythical race, that does not apply to all dragons. Because there are going to be some dragons that may be considered an elder race just because there is a lot of lore to unpack, but unfortunately not all can fit into one book that's about 440 pages long. Besides, I don't want to overflow you with info dump.
Yes, that is appreciated because it's nice to get all the information.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, listening to an lit RPG book, and I know this isn't necessarily info dump, but listening to a lit RPG book talking about when a character upgrades to the next or goes up to the next level and they start talking about all of the stats, that gets a little bit
It's broken. Just broken.
I don't know how I did it. I don't know how I did it with Nexus games, but I managed to keep it straight for the vast majority of it.
You know what I have to say for that? Blame Shammy.
But we want numbers to go. Brrr.
Yeah, but still, blame Shammy. She wrote the book. She wrote that book.
She did. I actually really like that book. Yeah. We actually have the day that we recorded this, you and I, actually Scott and I had done a review on the Nexus games, the very first book in that series.
Yeah.
And released a video on that. So if something you guys are interested in, not sure about, not trying to take away from your spotlight by any means.
Oh, go ahead. We're just having a good chat here.
So Scott and I are doing an interview or a sit down and talk about the review on that book. So if you're interested in Frith Chronicles, if you like Shammy's writing, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think you really can go wrong with any of Shammy's books.
No, you cannot. And here's another small fun fact for you. Shammy actually read first 25,000 words in this entire book. She read like the very first, maybe like first act to about around the second.
Dang.
There's 4 acts. There were 4 acts in the book. So she got to read that, and I don't know if you noticed, because I know you kind of didn't. I think you either brushed over it or you forgot about it. But since there's cultivation in this thing, which affects your stats in the system.
Oh yes, you're right. I did.
She commented on the doc specifically that as soon as she read what the cultivation stages were for the system, it gave her Cradle vibes. And I have to give this out to Will Wright. He did amazing with the Cradle books, and I bought all 12 of them. I bought all the Cradle books, and I got hooked onto Cradle, and that's what inspired me to do the cultivation part of the series, because I figured, okay, how can I fuck with cultivation in my own series? Stat boosts came to mind almost immediately, because when it comes to cultivators, they do a lot of cultivating, and they're trying to boost the efficiency of what they've got. There are some stories that focus on martial art type cultivation, some that do like closed door, but it was Cradle that got me into the genre, so little homage to all of them.
Oh, so
yep.
So I'm assuming we're definitely going to be seeing more of that, not necessarily in just this book, but in the rest of the series, continuation of it.
Yep. Ooh. Because cultivation plays a big factor in just the stat stuff, but further along in the book, I try to put more into the characters like as a sub story for the cultivation, because why not do some things where they're going to get involved in somewhat, and then tell the story of like how, because there's only so much you can do with levels and experience that other books have done before. But when you add cultivation into the mix, with hard levels and clear lines of progression that come with video game mechanics. Oh, Lord, they are in trouble.
Like it.
All I can say is you would enjoy the third act in that book, Eric, if you got to that point, because, oh man, I dig a little bit deeper into the cultivation.
Yay.
Just a little bit, not too much.
Okay. So, like I said, I will be continuing to read this book. I will finish this. I'm definitely excited to continue on with it. My wife and I just have also started a book review channel for YouTube and podcasting as well. So, we are definitely, I don't know why I keep adding things to my plate.
Well,
But
there's
I
so
will get
much
through this.
interesting things in life, so why not add more things to plate?
Exactly.
Yep.
Now, for those that are looking to get this book, how do we find that?
You can find that in the Amazon link down in the description down below, or wherever the description is in wherever you're listening or watching from.
That way.
Basically, you can find it there in the description. It's on my Amazon. If you ever want to read more of the continuation of the series that isn't on Amazon quite yet, you can always find it on Royal Road or on my Patreon. Though I always try to release chapters as soon as I can onto my Patreon, so good luck.
Right. So if we want to keep following the progress of the next book, go over to Patreon, take a look, see as you're progressing through that. Awesome.
Essentially, yes.
Now, and this is going to be a physical and a digital download available, correct?
Because I wanted to approach to both the people who read their books on their phones or Kindle devices and those who prefer the physical weight of the books, get a decent image of that.
Yeah, because I definitely, it'll be here.
Yep.
Because I love physical books. I really do.
Digital's got to be the way to go.
It's so much faster.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's faster for me to hit download and start reading versus the ordering it and then waiting for it to come in or waiting for it to be released. And I don't know if you've ever read Fourth Wing.
I've seen it on the Walmart shelves, if that counts.
So it's by Rebecca Yarros. Actually happened to be wearing a Fourth Wing sweater that my wife got me for Christmas last year. Well, so she released a book. 6 months later, she released her second book. Had a whole bunch of problems with the editing as far as like the publisher goes. So actually making the physical book. My wife and I actually had to order 2 of them because we consumed it in about a week, and like got to a point where we're like arguing about who's got to take care of the kid so we can continue to read.
This is what you do, coin flip every time.
Pretty much. It was, yeah, anywho. But she, it was so frustrating to have to wait for the book to go get it from the mail instead of just hitting that download button. I love physical books. I've got as many as I can display at the moment behind me. I've got to build shelves and get a bookshelf in here, rethink my work area. But
honestly, if I had the same level of ability that Shammy does in reaching out to her community and getting Kickstarters and stuff, the first thing I would try and do with the merch, if I ever got that chance, if I really like hit it big with this series, I would do like the banners, like I would do the Elder Core banners, because considering there are 10 divinities in all, like 7 Elder Gods, 3 Primordials. I would do Saratas's Elder Court banner. I would do Zaradel's Elder Court banner. I would do quite a few Elder Core banners, because I feel like that would be one of the best ways to do it, is to kind of like show off which court you most align with from the books. Yeah, but when there's like 10 core banners you can choose, you'd be like, oh, I align with Saratas, or I align with Zaradel, or I align with this Elder God or that Primordial. Because there's a lot of lore to unpack in this series, and I can't always, be like, oh, this is going to hit it big. Main reason why is because if I let Big Dollar control me in terms of like how much I should write to keep the support up, it would the quality of my writing, because that's not how writers are supposed to do. They're not supposed to write just to get a bunch of money. If they happen to get a bunch of big money, that's just
Right.
them. But my focus isn't just on making money. It's primarily just go through the writing, take my time, and come with a story, approach the community that finds this book interesting, to come back to with book 2, book 3, and onward, and say the story how it's supposed to be written instead of what publishers say or what everybody else wants from it.
Well, I know, speaking with other authors, talking with other indie authors like Shammy herself, having full say in what she does because she's an indie publisher, I don't think she's ever said anything about wanting to go back to a traditional publishing house. So obviously there's got to be some kind of wisdom in that. So you got to do what you got to do to make sure your book stays true to the way you want it to be. And with that, that's where your word comes out. And if people like it, then they like it because you made sure it was something that they like.
Yep. I'm pretty sure a lot of readers on Amazon or wherever they read their books kind of get sick of the human protagonists, and they want something that approaches them differently. That's why I went with non-human protagonists. So this book's practically going to start a very non-traditional method of reading, because sometimes if you want to still be quite human while you're not really human, you have to transcend what it really means to be human as a racial bias.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's only so much you can do as a human in these worlds where gods reign supreme. There are monsters in every corner, and magic is absolutely freaking real.
Taking the apex predator of humans and knocking them basically to the bottom there.
Yeah, I actually read a fan fiction by a guy named Caleb Artori on a web novel called Streamer in the Omniverse, and God, I subscribe to his Patreon. I'm one of his chat fates tier subscribers, and oh my lord, sometimes like, because I made like a post on mine to say like my characters want to help his character out with some of the stuff that he goes through, and I'm just like, oh, I can't put one of my characters in his stream chat and be like, hey, I'm here, I'm ready to rumble with only your bastards. But if I have to say anything about my characters in any of the universes, especially Shammy's universe with the Academy Arcanist or Frith Chronicles series, is all she ever has to do is hit me up, and if we can do a collab book where Volk or Gray or whatever protagonists that are facing a very big dilemma, and it crosses between our two universes, you can highly bet that whatever I write with Shammy would probably end up being way too epic.
It'd be very wild.
Yeah. And one other thing on this particular subject is I did make a post on my Patreon as soon as the Frith Chronicles ended. And it was just a little bit of what happened at the very end of that series with my character coming into that universe to be like, blink some resources. And I sent that off to Shammy, and I'm pretty sure, and I hope she enjoyed that.
But all right, well, like I said, we definitely look forward to it being released today, October 31st of 2024. If you get a chance to get over and download it or order it online, please do. Again, links are all down below, so that way we can get you guys over to that as easy as possible. This is definitely going to be a fun series. We'll definitely look forward to seeing more coming out in the future. And with that, did you have anything else you want to add tonight?
All I have to say is if you guys have enjoyed Chaotic Reality, you will enjoy book 2. And I know many authors probably don't include the next title in their book series in the very first book, but all I can say is if you've read Chaotic Reality from beginning to end and you still enjoy the series and you got to enjoy how I wrote this epic, massive universe and it's still being told, just remember that with every quest complete, the next quest will always unlock. So basically, all Eric has to do is keep telling you guys what's going on in the series. And yes, for those of you listening and watching, yes, I will always come back to talk with Eric and Dan or whoever else is with us about my book series and keep you guys updated on what's going on between final edits of the last book and the beginnings of the next.
Ooh, well, thank you. I'm definitely excited to have that as a open-ended whenever we get a chance to talk with you. So, all right. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll catch you guys next week for the next episode of the Frith Guild Podcast.
Where they get to decide if Volk and his Arcanist creatures will ever find a way back home.
And that wraps up our interview. Thank you for joining us on the Frith Guild Podcast. A huge thank you to Kevin for sharing the intriguing world of Chaotic Reality with us. Don't forget the book is available today, so grab your copy now. And before we go, we're thrilled to announce the launch of the Dragons Book Lair channel kicking off this Sunday, November 3rd. Make sure to check it out for more incredible content and book discussions. Until next time, keep reading and exploring new worlds.